in 2018, I met this shaman from the Sutiaba community. And this shaman was the one who was in charge of all, pretty much like writing all the books of all the indigenous communities before Cristobal Columbus came to Nicaragua and all this stuff, like change.
Mm-hmm.
So he told me that I have Quetzalcoatl energy or Quetzalcoatl consciousness, which is the feather serpents of the Mayans. And he told me since you have this energy, you are pretty much blessed or cursed, whatever you want to say it, to share this knowledge with humanity, because humanity right now need to wake up, awaken consciousness. Even my girlfriend used to tell me, she was like, what's your problem? Your problem is you overpromise and under-deliver. And it's because, for example, I said, I will do this by tomorrow, and I do it in 3 days. I will do this in 1 week, and it took me 2 weeks. I'm doing this in 1 month, and I will do it in 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, if you are unsure about your deadline, just says I will do this between 1 to 2 months. I will do this between 6 months to 1 year. But don't give me 1 day and then don't do it,
mm-hmm.
because you are looking as you overpromise and you underdeliver.
For all the ways that I thought I had learned a lot from the men's groups, I learned just as much, if not potentially more, from the women's groups. So I'm incredibly grateful. I'm wildly and immeasurably appreciative of the fact that I had that opportunity and that I was in a capacity, or in a place rather, where I had the capacity to actually do that. It was an honor. I met a lot of really cool people. I was challenged. I got to challenge people. It was learning through and through and through in the purest way that it could have possibly been.
I think at the end of the story, we always are teachers and students. We always learning from people that come to learn from us. And kids actually are great examples of that. That,
Mm-hmm.
That we try to teach them how to live life, and they come to us and tell us stuff that we're I never saw it that way.
Welcome to Awaken Consciousness Podcast.
We're live, finally, brother. Kumar, welcome to Awaken Consciousness Podcast.
Thank you kindly, my man.
And amazing. Here, all cameras finally working, everything doing good. I think we're ready to roll.
You did a good job setting this up. I remember when you had initially told me that this was in the works. I remember you spoke about it very modestly compared to now what I'm seeing, which is a proper production. You've got a full layout here in a way that I think is going to continue growing even from here. So this is exciting, man. I'm glad to see that you didn't leave this back either in Nika or in Canada. You brought this with you. This is a big part of you, I think.
Yeah, that now is part of my life. Wherever I'm going to go, it's going to go with me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to integrate it, because part of of the conversation we haven't had yet, that we're going to start having it now, it's that back in Nicaragua in 2018, I met this shaman from the Sutiaba community. And this shaman was the one who was in charge of all, pretty much writing all the books of all the indigenous communities before Cristobal Columbus came to Nicaragua and all this stuff, change.
Mm-hmm.
So he told me that I have Quetzalcoatl energy or Quetzalcoatl consciousness, which is the feather serpents of the Mayans. And he told me since you have this energy, you are pretty much blessed or cursed, whatever you want to say it, to share this knowledge with humanity, because humanity right now need to wake up, awaken consciousness, and evolve. And you are one of the few human beings who have the communication skills so you can connect the world of the spirits or the invisible world to the world of the physical world or the living beings. And I said, okay, so what's my job? It's you have to give consciousness, awareness, harmony, and balance to the world. And I'm like, I like that, but it looked like it's a lot of work. And he's like, well, you're chosen for this, you can follow your duty, or can you just walk away, because you got the free will to do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
So he took me the initiation. He took me to the mountains. He took me the first initiation. Then he took me to the river. Took me the second initiation, and then the last initiation was he gave me his stick for shaman to shaman. You are the new shaman now of this community, and you will guide these people, not only these people, but the people of the world.
And this was 2018.
2018.
Had you thought about this at all prior to you spending time with them and prior to you going through these motions?
Not really. Like at the beginning, like I was agnostic of a lot of things. You know, I came a Christian Catholic family, and I grew from, religious behavior, going to do your communion, do your confirmation and stuff like that. But it never like fulfilled me. So I started learning about Egyptians, the Greeks, about Chinese, like other cultures, and lastly shamanism. But always was like for like a self understanding, self-awareness of who am I and what I want and what's my connection with the universe. But I never thought that after I met the shaman, he was going to be like, this is your duty. And I'm like, why? Why me? It's like, bro,
I don't make the rules.
It's the stars, like I just telling you what it is,
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay. So it looked like it's a lot of work. So I have to do something that is easy to manage because I don't like being in crowd environments. I don't like to go like to these huge music festivals, and I can go like once, just to check it out and whatever and have fun with my friends. But it's not like every year I'm gonna go to Sama, for example, to do these music festival, because I hate to do lines to the bathrooms. I hate to do lines to have a drink. I have to do lines for everything, and I have to like be so crowded and sweaty, and like I just want to be in my space, relax, share my message. So I was like, how can I do that? Podcast. That's what it is.
So when did this actually start then? Specifically the podcast, I mean, because I've heard about it. You and I haven't known each other for very long.
Yeah.
And so this is actually maybe a nice little segue. Us finally being able to have a conversation like this face to face is a really nice extension to a lot of the conversations that you and I have already had, right?
Yeah.
We've had quite a few heart-to-hearts, despite the fact that there was a little bit of distance internally, or initially rather. But internally, it always felt like we'd known, at least for me, it felt like I'd known you much longer than I actually had. And so the reason that I ask specifically about the journey with the shaman, and then now this awakening of yours to start doing more of this, where do you feel this? Maybe a better question would be, why have you not tried this yet? Was it because of that, or did you feel like maybe you weren't ready? Did you feel like there was something else blocking you?
I was lazy, and I was avoiding it.
Okay.
Because I know the amount of work that was going to be. Is a lot of work in terms of like buying cameras, like buying microphones, like finding the studio or like creating my own studio. Then what I'm going to talk about, like why I have to talk to these two people, like it's so much overwhelmed. So I took like 3 years of preparation after 2018, like 3 years of preparation, thinking about my book, thinking about the AI, thinking about the podcast, thinking about the topic, thinking about all that. And then after that, I did all that, then the happening, like the building it, like the momentum. So I started like moving it very slowly because I was like, okay, I know I'm going to that mountain. I'm just going to take my time. Don't push me. Don't rush me. Like the whole universe is like, come on, bro, like go. And I'm like, relax. If you don't like my speed, find someone else.
You still wanted to maintain some of the control that you had.
Exactly. Like I want to do the thing, sure, but like just give me my space, give me my time, because there's something about my family. I don't know if it's my family or Nicaraguans itself, but if you give me a duty, for example, like clean the house at 3 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that cleaning the house will take me like, 15 minutes. It's not going to be a big deal. So I'm taking my time, and I will do it like until like the time is almost over. I won't start doing it from now, and then it's going to be like free time later. I will do whatever I want first, and then I'm going to be until the last moment to start working.
But you'll get it done right.
Exactly. So, but it annoys me when people go to me and, for example, like you say like, hey, I told you at 3 and it's 2:30 and you haven't do anything. In that moment, I won't do shit.
That's where you'll shut off.
I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing that.
Do you do that
anymore.
to yourself as well, though? Do you find that if, even in your head, if you've decided that you want to do something and let's say you throw some spaghetti on the wall and you say by such and such date, I will have these things done. Do you ever catch yourself saying, oh my God, I haven't done this yet. I should do this now. No. I'm going to do it later. Like almost combating yourself, your own psyche.
And then at the end, like I have to do everything
all
in 1 hour. So I just get like overwhelmed. Like
this sounds like procrastination.
Exactly. And this is actually like something that I've been learning like a lot. like how to manage myself better, manage my times better, manage my procrastination better. Because there is I don't know how to express it. I would call it as a problem. I don't exactly know it's a problem, but I like to feel challenged. So if I know I'm going to do like 3-4 things who are like very easy, I just let them accumulate. So when I do it, I feel challenged. So, okay, now I can do it.
Yeah.
But otherwise it's going to be too easy. You know, it's like, I don't know, like talking to any girl and the girl is challenged. So I feel attracted, but if she's like so easy, I'm like, nah.
So my equivalent to this is I tell the people in my life that first and foremost, whose opinion really matters to me and who I have a lot of respect for. So if I say to you, so I know for me, if I say to myself, I have to do this or whatever it might be, some combination thereof, I'll take my time. I'll do it at my own pace, much like what you're saying. I'll procrastinate the absolute fuck out of it. I will not lean into it until I feel like I absolutely have to. But take that exact same scenario, and if I tell you, Diego, hermano, I'm going to finish this by such and such time, I have to get it done by that time, because the last thing that I want is to come back to you and tell you, I gave you my word that I was going to do something and then I didn't do it.
Of course.
That's going to make me feel like a giant fucking idiot.
Yeah.
So I've just started using my words as my own kind of driver rather than just the motivation and the discipline associated with getting something done. I will now, if I know something's important, if you ever get a random text message from me and it's just like some task that I have to finish, now you'll know why. I'm telling you, because I know if you have to come back and ask me if I got it done and I have to say to you no, it's going to be the most shameful and embarrassing shit that I have to go through that day, and I don't want to deal with it. So I'm just going to get it done, whatever it is that I told you I was going to get done.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. If you get, especially if it's like late in the evening or early hours in the morning, you know I'm on one. And I've been really lazy up until that point, and so I tagged in one of the boys. I tagged in one of the generals to say, here's what I have to do. I'm telling you about it so that I get it done. Stay tuned. That's been my fix for my own procrastination. Might be something worth considering.
No, for sure. Like all those tips, like it helped me like to have a different perspective of things. Like even my girlfriend like used to tell me, she was like, you know what's your problem? Your problem is like you overpromise and under-deliver. And it's because, for example, like I said, like I will do this by tomorrow, and I do it in like 3 days. I will do this in 1 week, and it took me 2 weeks. I'm doing this in 1 month, and I will do it in 2 months. Mm-hmm. So she's like, if you are unsure about your deadline, just says like, I will do this between 1 to 2 months. I will do this between 6 months to 1 year. But don't give me 1 day and then don't do it, mm-hmm. because you are looking as you overpromise and you under-deliver. But this is also a problem with me, because I'm the type of person like, hey, you have to relax in your life. You don't have to have everything like perfect on time, perfect in this and perfect in that. Because a lot of people is like, oh, I don't want to look like awkward, or I don't want to be ashamed because I didn't do my stuff and whatever. Because look, we're humans. And yes, we have goals, we have promises, and we have deadlines, but we may not achieve it all the time. But people have this bad behavior of when you start delivering stuff always on time and always, the first time you don't do it, they will eat you alive. So why you're not doing this? You always has been like this and like that. So you can do like 100 things good, 1 thing bad, and they will kill you because of that. Mm-hmm. So in my case, what I do is like, I do like 50-50. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't do it on time, and that's okay. So people, when they talk to me, they're already expecting. It's like Diego says in 3 days, but maybe he's going to do it in 1 week. So in this case, they already have this kind of like more chill experience about me in terms of like, yes, he promised to do this. I know he will do it. It's not that I won't do it. I always do it, no matter what. Always. But not exactly the time I say. And this gave me like free, they gave me free stress, and at the same time, I teach others of don't be always like, you have to be perfect. You have to be the day you told me. You have to be like this and da. Because we're humans and we make mistakes. And sometimes we promise things and we don't address it on the time we say it. There's a problem if you promise something and you never do it. Mm-hmm. That is very bad. But if you promise and you just don't do it exactly in the same moment, then it's okay. Like 5 minutes later, 15 minutes later, bro, you told me I'm going to be here at 3. You got a call, a very important call. I'm going to be 10 minutes late. Fine. You know, like,
Mm-hmm.
I won't be like, oh, Kumar, I have, you know, my stuff already like set up for 3. Now you're going to delay me 10 minutes of something else that I have to do. And I'm like, and some people is like that.
Yeah, people are like that. And I find those are the people that end up missing the beauty of like the small moments. So think of some of the things that even happened today, like the water getting delivered or whatever you had kind of going on with that maintenance work or whatever needed to get done.
Yeah.
If we'd started earlier, we might have missed that.
Exactly.
Right? Like there's all these little things that can kind of just line up, and the universe has a really interesting way of giving us what we need, when we need it, how we need it. And it's not up to us to hope for it, pray for it, or expect it. It's just up to us to get the fuck out of the way. That's it. And for myself, I just got brutally honest with myself. And this is kind of a practice that I've now been doing for the better part of probably 10 years. But I just said to myself, I'm setting expectations as realistically as I possibly can. And anytime that I fall either on either side of those expectations or somewhere in between in a way that I just don't like, I'm just going to verbalize that as well. So anytime if I've made a commitment to somebody or I've told them about something and something changes, circumstance or whatever it is, or even just myself, I'll tell them. And there's a liberty that comes from that, because I know that, and I know you know this as well, perfection is completely unattainable. Perfection is such a fantasy, and that too, it's a cancerous, toxic, moronic fantasy to have, because perfection does not exist. You can always do something better. You can always think about something more clearly. You can always introduce yourself stronger. You can always shake hands better. Like there's no shortage of ways that I can attach variables to the ways that I could be improving. But the reality is that I don't want perfection. I want excellence in my life. And I want excellence from people around me as well.
Yeah.
The excellence that I want from them is not a direct reflection of the excellence that I want for myself. It's an excellence from them. What's their version of that excellence? Because the reality is, excellence is just a rolling horizon of our potential. Everything that I know I've accomplished in my life, everything that I have fallen on, fucked up, misstepped, whatever it might be, typically I only ever looked at it from a point of negativity when my expectations were not aligned with the reality of what the situation was. And if I try to project or impose that reality onto somebody else, I'm destined to be disappointed. So instead, I focus on what I know will work for me.
And what you can control.
What I can control. And even the things that I can control, if I screw them up or if I misstep, whatever it might be, no problem. I can control how I react. I can't control how I might feel about it in the moment, but I can definitely control how I can correct it, how I can improve it, how I can fix it, and how I can bring as many people with me along on that ride as I possibly can. So it's this delicate balance. And so when you talk about how being chill, I think first and foremost, I think Playa has a big part of that. It is a really big influence for me. Being here has changed that. Any of the time that I spent in India, any of the time that I spent in Canada, very, very different from the time that I have spent here in Mexico, and then more specifically here in Playa. And I've learned, I think, from the ocean, more so than anything else. And that might sound weird to a lot of people, and I think it'll hit home exactly the way it needs to for others. But the ocean, nature, the power of what's around us is really, really interesting. It's something that it has broken me in very interesting ways. Broken me in the sense that I was that guy where I had my sights set on doing something exactly this way, by exactly this time, with this exact outcome. And for all the ways that I used to preach, do not, under any circumstance, do not be outcome dependent. For all the ways that I used to say that, it's like I was projecting what I needed to hear for myself. I was so attached to the way that shit played out, and I was so attached to the way that I got certain things done, that I completely lost sight about the enjoyment of actually going through them, of doing them. And I remember I smacked my head. This is going to sound ridiculous. Smacked my head on a rock under the ocean at one point. And
that's for real? This is
no, I absolutely mean this. This happened.
Okay.
Smacked my head, and I started laughing underwater, and I don't really know why, but it was just this funny moment, one of those weird little things that I don't know whether for better or for worse, but it really did shake me out of that funk that I was in, of shit has to go exactly the way that it needs to go. Let go of all that. This was a self-talk that I had with myself, was let go of the way that I think things need to go, and just be grateful, appreciative, and honored that those things happened to begin with. And I swear to God, man, my life turned around. It was like a light switch went off in my head, and everything that I was feeling internally was now being given to me in ways that I could only describe as abundantly. It was it was a powerful, I mean, it took a rock to the head for me
literally.
for me to figure this out. And I still haven't quite figured it out. It's a work in progress.
There is a quote actually that says like when shit happens, you rather cry or laugh. So I prefer to laugh.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay, this shit happened. Fuck. Okay, whatever. Like, bro, the water was just like we were just talking about it. Like I spent so much money in that water purifier, and they told me like, hey, you just bought it, and we're gonna deliver it in 5 to 7 days. Okay? I'm like, good. 2 weeks later, where is my machine?
Did they hit you with the ahorita? Like before, you know, when they hit?
Well, yeah, mañana. and I'm like, okay, fine. I will wait for mañana. Where is it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there is some delay. We will fix it. Okay, fine. 4 weeks to get delivered.
Mm-hmm.
When they get delivered, finally, the delivery guy is like, okay, here you go. You have to pay 800 pesos. 800 pesos for what? I already spent so much money in this.
They brought it to you 2 months before they wanted to. That's why.
And then he's like, oh, because the delivery fee. And I called the company. The company is like, we didn't know about this. And you work in this. Like, you should know about this. So the guy took it back because I didn't pay.
Mm-hmm.
Then I called the company. They fixed it. They send it again. They finally installed it today. And then the guy who was installing it says like, hey, the UV purifier didn't come. I'm like, okay, perfect. Like, first it comes late. Second, I have to bring it back, and then comes again, double late. And guess what? When I finally unpack everything, there's missing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you get angry, you cry, or you laugh. And I'm like, look, I text the business person, you know, who says like, I know this is not your fault. You're just selling the stuff, but your company sucks. It's like the worst company ever. Tell your boss that fire everybody and change.
Close shop.
Yeah, like that shit. What the fuck? Like, I'm from Nicaragua, and it's even worse in Mexico. I mean, like, what the fuck is going on? And like, but you know, like, I decide to just calm myself down and says like, okay, it's already here. At least like 90% of the stuff. I'm just gonna wait for the rest. Yeah. And part of also my culture of like, you know, in Nicaragua, is a lot of things are always late. It's always like mañana, like. If you pay in advance, like the worker, they may go to drink and not gonna come to work the day after. You know, probably here the same, and that's why like I'm like more chill about like a lot of stuff. Like for example, like when I go to Toronto in Canada, and my girlfriend is walking with me in the streets, I was like, "Why you're running?" She's like, "Why you're so slow?" And I'm like, why you have to walk so fast? You know, like, but it's completely different two perceptions. Everybody's running over there. Everybody's like rushing. Yeah. And I'm just appreciating this stuff. Appreciating the city. Appreciating the CN Tower. Appreciating like the people, because the slower you walk, the more you can appreciate your environment. The best example is like if you're in a car 100 kilometers an hour, you cannot appreciate the environment if the same when if you're in a bicycle. You know, it's a completely two different environments. So that's why I told her, like, you have to calm down in how you walk or how to process. So everything have to be like this and da. Because she used to get stressed for stuff like, oh, we're 10 minutes late and now you're delaying me 10 minutes in all my other tasks. So what? So what? Like, relax, you know, like you're gonna die if you don't do it. It's just like, no, but relax, bro. Like, this is the part, like, you know, of creating the balance in between the two worlds. Like, what we can control, what we cannot control, what we can appreciate, what we can understand, and, you know, putting stuff together in harmony. And that's how people start actually like relaxing without feeling stressed or anxious. Because at the end of the story, like, stress and anxiety will be everything start like putting everything together, and then you feel you cannot manage it because there's like a lot of stuff going on. But if you get stressed, is that gonna change something? No,
probably not.
No, for sure, it's not gonna happen anything. The only thing is you gonna get stressed, but it's not gonna change anything in the outside. So just eat it, withdraw it, and like move forward and just continue doing like that. Of course, just don't be a lazy and just like leave everything at the end. Like, you have to find that balance also, like between both of the two worlds. But don't get so annoying for things that you cannot control or things that didn't happen in the way you want to.
I was really bad at this for a long time, man. And it's still a work in progress, like every other part of me. But this was something, like, this hits home. This is something that like I find will resonate with me deeply for a very long time. Anytime somebody talks about the way that you choose to react to something, the way that you choose to internalize something, and the way that you choose to really reflect on things around you, they have such a strong impact on every other part of your life. So for me, for a very, very long time, I was looking around, specifically here in Playa, actually. This is a great way to make the example of here. I was looking around, and even whether it was girls that I was dating or whatever was kind of going on, it was really transient. It was touch and go, come and go kind of thing, it literally and figuratively. And the reason why I justified that in my head was it's a beach town. It's a vacation spot. It's a tourist destination. Insert whatever narrative that you need to fit the denomination that I'm giving it.
Right.
But that was always really, really wrong. It was so incorrect. The reality is that whatever was going on in my head and whatever I had decided to feel like that day was outwardly portrayed to me, or reflected back to me rather, because of how I was feeling internally. And this isn't something that I was doing consciously. It was just something, and ties into, I think, the purpose of this discussion and a lot of the other ones that you probably have. But I was just totally unaware of the fact that so much of my self-talk, whether it was negative or otherwise, it doesn't really matter, but so much of my self-talk was directly influencing and directly resulting in what was going on in my external world. And for the longest time, man, this was shit that went right over my head in a shameful way. Not shameful to share it. I'm more than happy to share it with anybody, but it was shameful because internally I've preached this shit to other people. I've said, don't let your negative self-talk dictate to you how positive or how negative something else can really be. And it's really easy to give advice, but sometimes it's really difficult to take it. And I was so guilty of that, man. I was every single time I had those conversations, I was projecting to other people what I think, A, I needed to hear from someone else, and B, what I needed to internalize and really integrate for myself. I was so fucking bad at it, man. My inner world was such a hot mess. And that's, when I think about really, really amazing relationships, whether I'm not even just talking romantically, I mean, whether they are relationships with the generals, I call them, the boys and the guys that I feel we're on the same track. We have a very similar set of ambitious goals. Maybe not directly related, but we have ambition. We have a very similar drive in the way that we get things done. We prioritize our health and wellness and our fitness mentally and otherwise. Those guys, when I think about what drives them, I think to myself, and this is a great reminder, it's a strong reminder, so if I kind of give the example of you, if I'm thinking about something and I'm talking myself out of doing something that I know I should do, if I'm too tired to go to the gym, and I sit there and I say to myself, would Diego go to the gym today? Fucking right, he'd go to the gym today. So am I a little bitch that I'm not going to go? Fuck no. I have to go to the gym because I want to eat those tacos. Like, I'll start shifting the narrative that I have in my head to directly fit the kind of result that I want, which is a result that's much more positive than it otherwise would have been. I got mixed up with the wrong girls when I got out here. It had nothing to do with the girls. They were dimes. They were great. They were great people. I don't say any of this to be any kind of deprecating towards them. But in my head, like, they were psychotic. And they were way more psychotic because I had decided my reality in that moment, and the way that I was moving through life in that moment needed that kind of chaos. When in reality, in a more healthy kind of way, I didn't need that chaos. I just needed structure. But because I had decided for myself, they were crazy. They were crazy.
Of course, it's a reflection.
It's exactly a reflection. And then I started meeting more of them, and they were crazy too. And it was like, none of them are crazy. I am. And until I get, out of my own way, this is the kind of shit that I'm going to keep getting. This is the quality, whether it's of women or anything else, it doesn't matter.
Of course.
The quality of everything in my life is going to be a direct reflection of the quality that's what's going on in my inner world. And this was a tough wake-up call too, man. Just like that rock to the head in the ocean. This was like, we're talking the universe took a sledgehammer to my chest repeatedly until I really got this. And then it, I think, kicked me around a little bit more just for good measure. But these types of lessons, and anytime someone talks about what's going on in their outward world as a direct reflection of what's going on in their inner world, is deeply moving for me. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, and also like as you mentioned, also preaching and actually like doing, because me, for example, as a shaman, sometimes I get angry, sometimes I get annoyed, sometimes I get like emotional. And then people come to me like, why you're acting so angry, shaman? Don't you just about love and harmony? And I'm like, bitch, I know, but I'm also human. You know what I mean? Like, I won't be all my fucking life. Like, I'm gonna get angry if things doesn't happen in the way I want to sometimes. If things get out of my control, I'm gonna get sad. I'm gonna get, like, whatever. I'm gonna get emotional. I'm human. Of course, I can, like, manage it much better than a lot of people. But I'm also human, and that's part of also, like, the living part. So, of course, I preach harmony and love and like, balance and stuff, and I try my best. But sometimes I'm going to get out of there, and that's totally okay, you know, because, again, I'm human, and, again, I'm not perfect, and I'm fine with that. Mm-hmm. And so people like it. Some people don't like it. I don't care. You know, like, this is my life. This is the way I do it. I try, like, to preach it and like, live it the best way I can, but it's not going to be perfect. And this is what I love about this podcast. This is what I love about my life, too, because it's about perfectly imperfect. Mm-hmm. And this is what makes you beautiful. This is what makes us, all of us, beautiful. The imperfections is what make us unique. And it's what make us us.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
This reminded me, I just remembered one of the very first things that I heard when I got to Playa the first time. This is whatever it was now, 5 years ago, 4.5, 5 years ago. And what someone said is, it's very, very morbid. Someone says to me, Playa either, welcome. First and foremost, they're, bienvenidos a Playa de Carmen. And then they say, Playa is either going to abort you or it's going to adopt you. That was one of the first things that they said to me. And I remember thinking to myself, that's dark as shit for such a beautiful place. And for this person who's preaching, I mean, this girl she fits the stereotype of, like, basic spiritual, finding herself kind of gal. She's one of those. But she had a lot of really, really cool things, little anecdotal sort of things like this. She had a lot of these ones to share. She was like a little fortune cookie. And that was the ebb and flow of her and I's relationship, which was that she would throw something out like this and then I would challenge it. I wasn't challenging it to start shit with her. I was challenging it because I wanted to hear where it came from. I wanted to know her why. And this is something that now I'm going to take us in an interesting sort of path.
Welcome to Awaken Consciousness Podcast, bro. Like, you can take whatever you want and the way you want it. Speak the way you want it. Hopefully we don't get banned.
Yes. Yeah, I hope not either. And you'll be the judge of this. So if we have to cut this whole thing out, we can just have, like, a blank space in between and you'll see what I mean. But a friend of mine, he's one of the closest things I have to a brother, man. Like, when I think of the way that my life has forked, when I have taken one direction versus another, so much of the protection, I call it, and whether these are protection or whether this is protection coming from, for example, prayers from my grandmother or prayers from him, whatever it may be, in one capacity or another, I firmly believe that God, the universe, nature, him, everyone else in my life, in one way or another, have been pushing me forward. Whether I see it or not is almost irrelevant. But the reason I bring this up is because part of how he pushes me forward is because he asks me one question several times over with different things in my life. And that question is, why? That's it. And it's not to challenge my stance. It's not to question my thesis. He just wants to hear what my rationale is. He just wants to hear a little bit more about my understanding. And that's the give and take of our relationship, where we give each other these challenges to take whatever that experience is and hopefully shape and mold our own so that we can learn from them. And I've shared this with you before too. I don't give a fuck what I do in my life, so long as I get to positively impact the people around me. I don't want to shelter them, anyone for that matter, the people that I love the most and the people that I've just met for the first time. I don't want to shelter them from anything. But I do want to hopefully share with them some of the mistakes that I've made, in hopes that all it does is free them up to not make the same mistakes that I have, but instead to make their own. And so every time this buddy of mine asks me why, it's usually a mistake. Not on his part, on my part. He's asking me why because I've made a mistake somewhere.
Right.
And this has just become the ebb and flow of his and I's discussions, exchanges, whether we talk shit to each other or whether we prop each other up. It's the same thing. It's always based on that one question of why. And so when I said I'm going to take this in an interesting sort of direction, he asked me why at one point when I was ripping on, I brought this up with you already, so spoiler alert for everybody else, but I said, fuck acid. Acid sounds chaotic, the drug. Mm-hmm. It's a narcotic that I want absolutely nothing to do with, to the point that I don't know anything about it. I don't want to know anything about it. I am so beyond wanting to try anything that I feel could negatively impact my life in that respect. especially and more specifically my health, my physical health, and who knows what the hell this shit could do to me mentally, I'm staying the absolute fuck away from it. That was my judgment. It was a harsh judgment. And we went back and forth and we were just talking about this. And sure enough, he asks me why at one point, and I couldn't give him a straight answer. I told him all those things that I just said,
Right.
but there was no conviction. And that's what he challenged me on. He said, I have heard you speak about things that you have the highest level of conviction for. You're arguably one of the most well-spoken people I've ever met and ever been graced with in my entire life. But this you can't explain. Something's off. And that was the challenge.
Right.
And I remember thinking to myself, I still, even to this day, I still don't know the exact composition of the drug. I still don't know what LSD actually stands for. There's still so much I don't know about it.
Have you tried mushrooms?
I have tried mushrooms. And actually, there's a fun story about that too. I have to share this with you because I think you'll appreciate it. But with acid, it was just in my head, it just synthesized. So that was my judgment. And that was the only judgment that I had on it that served as the catalyst for all these other judgments. And when he asked me why, it was like I had a semi out of body sort of thought process of, what else am I judging like this? I'm judging this shit so harshly. I'm judging this shit like it just stole my child from me. Like, this makes no sense.
Almost like you went on LSD like so dark, and then you're like, I'm done with this.
Yeah, it was like
I never tried even.
Yeah, it was like I had the worst trip of my life. And if that was the case, granted, that's totally reasonable.
Right.
And in my mind, that's justifiable. Because then I can point to a blueprint and I can point to something and say, I know with certainty and I know with complete conviction that this shit is just not for me. And I don't say that to pass judgment or cast judgment on anybody else. If anybody else has a different experience, more power to them. Send them off with love. It's just not for me. Like that is a much more grounded stance than the stance that I had, which was, I've never tried this shit. I don't know anything about it other than the fact that it's synthesized and I want nothing to do with it because of that. But that was where it started and stopped. And then sure enough, I tried it. I tried it because of the fact that I felt a deep sense of shame of, I have judged this so hard. Am I judging myself this way? Am I judging other people this way? Am I judging other places this way? Am I judging other experiences this way? Am I robbing myself of some of the humanity and some of the excellence that I just talked about a little bit earlier? Am I preventing myself and robbing myself of those experiences? And it turns out that yes, in fact, I was. Because this experience was, this first one I'm talking about, and then of course the subsequent 10 were just as powerful. But the very, very first experience was something that I hold in such high regard because it felt transformative the way that ayahuasca felt transformative. It felt transformative the way that mushrooms felt transformative. Yeah. It was right up there with all these other things that had given me this beautiful, renewed lease on life of saying, this is something that's so far outside of my wheelhouse. I've still never even smoked weed in my life. I've dabbled with edibles and all this kind of shit. But here I was saying, alcohol, absolutely not. Weed, smoking it anyway, absolutely not. But yeah, sure, pass me a tab or two of acid. It just felt so completely out of place. But the experience that I got out of it was exactly what I needed it to be. It was a renewed lease on life of appreciation of all the little things. Me staring out into the clouds and watching them fold and dance with each other in the trippiest, coolest way.
Of course.
And colors feeling so much different. Fruit.
Yeah, the sensations too.
Oh my God, man. It was everything I needed it to be and more. And it shook me to my core of, I can't believe I did all those things that I previously used to tell people don't do. I used to project that as well. I was projecting a whole lot. Hey, don't judge people until you give them an honest chance. Don't judge a place until you spend a little bit of time there. Don't judge yourself until you've given yourself enough grace to fail, to fuck up, to fall, to, climb again. All of these things. Don't judge those things. But here I was doing all of it. I was the guiltiest person, man. And now coming out of it, when I compare it to even all my experiences with ayahuasca, it's just as beautiful as those ones were. It's obviously a different kind of beautiful, but
of course,
it's just a very, very different kind of thing. And I owe so much of my awakenings, so many of the moments that I feel have really awoken me to the things that are most important. I owe so many of them to the things that I once decided for myself were not for me, but then went and did them anyway. I went back on my own word and I gave them a shot. I didn't cast judgment. I just let myself experience it, and it changed my life. And every single one of those things starts in the exact same place, me judging them. And so this was acid and playa at large has been a breeding ground for me to get the hell out of my own way, to just shut the fuck up and let myself experience the things that previously I would have written off as being not for me.
Yeah.
Or don't fit, whatever it might be.
Of course. I mean, like, there is a lot of stuff that we don't understand and we judge it. But once we do experience it, it's like, I was talking shit. I have no idea what actually like means. Mm-hmm. There is actually like one very good example that I'm going to share with you. There is a bunch of yogis or shamans, or not shamans, but yogis, gurus online, they speak about, I never do drugs. I just always high in meditation. I just need to be sober and I'm going to have all the experiences that being high means. But you don't know what you're talking about. Like you could be sober and you get a type of high. Yeah, sure, in meditation I also do. But it's not the same thing as being in acid, being in ayahuasca, being in marijuana, being like in different stuff. So me personally as a shaman, like I've been trying so many drugs. And all these drugs I've been trying, it has been for mainly curiosity. Not for like, oh, I just want to do marijuana and cocaine and whatever. Always do it in curiosity. So first I always do my research. Okay, this is marijuana. What marijuana symptoms are. What it give you. How bad it is. Like I never try, for example, heroin because that is like a next level. And I'm like, okay, that's a little bit like too far for me. But I've been trying like acid, like mushrooms, weed, etc. And I'm like, when I try it, I will do it myself 3 experiments. First experience, see what it happens, maybe a good trip, maybe a bad trip. Second experience, see what happened, first, see if it's a good trip, bad trip. Third experience, and then after I got my 3 experiences in 3 different scenarios, maybe with 3 different people in 3 different environments, then I have a very well understanding about the drug, about my body, about my control with the drug, and how it like benefits me or not. Mm-hmm. Same with ayahuasca, same with other different psychedelics that will create on you a different perception. And this is why, as I told you, like I'm against all these gurus that says like I don't need any drug because I'm always high. Fine, you're always high, but in meditation, bro, like you can reach different type of meditations, but you will never reach that plant of psychedelics. If you want to talk about it, experience it. Do it at least 3 times and then come back to me and we have a discussion. And maybe I can invite you to my podcast and we can talk about it, But you cannot come and tell me that you cannot, you understand and you will never do it because you already understand what it is if you never try it. Mm-hmm. And everything goes like that, not only in terms of psychedelics or drugs, but also in relationships, like people who come and give you advices about like being in a relationship, but they've been single all their life, or they've been just like in and out relationships. Same for like a type of job, a type of journey, etc. Like a lot of people judge and point fingers in other people about what their own experience is, but it's not the experience itself. Mm-hmm. So you have to do it in order you understand it, and then when you understand, then you can talk about it. Because if you're not, you're just talking shit. Mm-hmm. And that's the reality of things. And this is something that I've been learning through experience too. Because I think most of us in life, we judge at some point, because we don't understand and we don't want to feel like them. So we will say like, oh, that's wrong, particularly religious people, or politics, or you're left, or you're right, or I believe in God and you don't. And Jews are the best, or Christians are the best, or Muslims are the best. Bro, each of you have your own perception. You cannot come and tell me which one is the best until you come into this part of the journey, experience what I'm experiencing, and then you do your own feedback, about what it is, and always do it with an open heart. Don't do it to kind of like pretend who's better than the other, or what's wrong and what's right, because at the end, what's wrong and right is just a perception. Life itself is a perception. Right and wrong technically doesn't exist. It's just a mental preconception of humans that we have. That's why we have devil and God. That's why we have female and male. But at the end of the story, like all this duality, it's just one. Everything ends in one.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole duality, it's needed for us to experience, but not exactly to understand. Because at the end of the story, like whatever you understand is just your own perception. And I was having actually like a conversation a few days ago with a friend I just met here at Playa. And we were talking about the movie The Matrix. And we were talking about the part of the movie. I don't know if you remember this guy who betrayed Neo, he's eating a piece of meat in order to change information to the computers. Mm-hmm. So the computer says like, okay, so do you want to live in the Matrix or you want to live in the
real world?
Ugly world, which was the real world.
Yeah. This was the red pill, blue pill moment.
Exactly. But not with the Neo, but with this traitor. And there's like this part of like this, this agent talking to this guy. They're in a restaurant and the guy is eating a piece of meat. And he just tried it. And he's like, it's so delicious. Like who will say it's not real? It feels so real. So at the end of the story, like life is a perception. So I was talking to this lady and I was like, so if they give you like the red pill or the blue pill, which one are you going to choose? And she's like, I will stay in the Matrix. And I'm like, you would prefer to be living in a lie than living in the truth? And she's like, well, between one true and another, it's just a matter of perception. She's like, and if you're asking me like this true, it's ugly as fuck and computers are chasing you and everybody live in a bunker and you cannot see daylight and everything is war. And the other one is nice and I'm just going to be stupid and ignorant and enjoy my life. I would prefer to perceive that as my reality. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you know what? You're quite right. Because at the end of the story, it's your own perception. So whatever you believe, it's true. Whatever you believe, it's what is happening to you and experiences as true. But true itself can be completely different. For example, this could be a simulation, right? And the simulation could be into another simulation. So you will never know actually like which simulation is what. Maybe we experience all that and actually like our body, it's frozen in another planet and we just like connected to a machine and we just like experience all this in order like to experience human life.
Plot twist for humanity is that we're all just software.
Exactly.
We've got little meat husks that we run around in, but we're really just software. It's a trippy thing to think about.
I know, but it's so true at the same time because like we don't know actually like what's outside. The only thing we know is that what is inside of us and inside of our mind. But that's the only thing we can perceive.
Even that can be scary sometimes. And the reason I bring it up is you bring up a really good point. My very first, I'm going to come back to ayahuasca for a second. My very, very first ayahuasca ceremony, a friend of mine tells me, hey man, you got to check this out. You really need to, I think you're primed for it. This was on the heels of a lot of what we had chatted about, a lot of what I had shared with him, a lot of what he had shared back. And there were some people there that I had known were going to be there, that I had known for a long time, and that I knew they wouldn't go through something like this if it wasn't the real deal, if it wasn't of value. Mm-hmm. But in my head, I'm still struggling with it. I'm still wrestling with it because I'm sitting here saying, this is for fucking hippies. Like, why am I here? And so we show up. They tell me this whole, here's your lead in for going into this ceremony. For 5 days up to that ceremony, you're not to consume any illicit drugs. You try to limit your prescriptions and things if you have any prescriptions. No red meat, no meat actually of any kind. Mm-hmm. Strictly, like we're talking, a vegan diet as much as you can for that particular 5 day period and for that lead in. No sex, no alcohol. It was basically just a purification exercise leading into it because the ayahuasca is going to have such an impact on your life,
of course,
or on your body rather, that you want your life to have the impact that it has intended for you, but you have to work for it. There's a climb. This is not a recreational hallucinogenic. This is not a recreational drug. This is a very intentional plant medicine,
of course,
that will fuck you up. And
it will make you puke.
Not just that, it'll mess you up. Like it'll fuck with your head really, really hard depending on what's in your body at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
And so all this to say, leading up to it, I go through that motion and it sucked because I had a nice roster at the time. But yeah, we've all been there. Any man of value has been there, and it's just kind of shitty when you have to kind of put that on pause. It's a control thing that you have to go through, but I went through it because I liked the way that it challenged me psychologically. It challenged me physically as well. And not just sexually. I'm talking it challenged me physically in ways of like controlling my lust, controlling my own libido, controlling my own drive, sexually or otherwise. But all of these things, it woke me up to the fact that as much as I might think I'm in control of the way that I'm moving through life, all I know is that I know nothing. Like I really am not in control. The shit that happens, the only thing I'm in control in is how I respond to it and what I learn from it to some extent. But everything else is an illusion. So I get through these 5 days of this purification period, and we show up at these grounds, and these grounds are beautiful. We're talking maybe 45 minutes outside of Playa, so very, very close by. And there's this almost this like concave walk or path with these like beautiful white stone that was not exactly comfortable, but not uncomfortable to walk on. And I liked the idea that there was a grounding as you enter the grounds, in the sense that it was the first time in a long time that I had just walked barefoot on a bunch of rocks. That's not something I do regularly. I'm sure other people can, but not my usual.
Right.
So I'm coming into this place, and it's got this beautiful concave and these arched trees with foliage coming through and all this stuff. Beautiful, beautiful place. And I get to these grounds, and I'm looking around, and I'm saying, this is definitely not for just hippies. Like, this is for humanity. I got this wrong. I used hippie in place of humanity. I could leave this place right now, and I will have gotten what I needed because of just how beautiful of a space it was. And then I fell right back into my judgment because one of the facilitators comes by and says, hola, Kumar, ¿qué tal? Bienvenidos. They give me the whole spiel, right? Mm-hmm. And then enjoy your journey is what they kind of left me with. And I'm thinking, okay, you too.
Thanks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like for lack of a better kind of feeling, it was just like, yeah, thanks. And then that was one facilitator, and then I meet one of the other ones, and she says the same thing to me. He gives me the spiel and then closes it with, we're so happy you're here. Please enjoy your journey. And I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, so maybe I was right on the money. These are just a bunch of fucking hippies. And so now I'm falling back into that judgment.
Yeah.
And then I meet Ruben, who's the head facilitator, and he says the same thing. He welcomes me. He gives me a hug. Super, super welcoming person. There's a presence. There was an energy about this guy. And there was an energy about the other facilitators as well. His wife, Millie, I believe was her name. And then Sophie, who I had such a crush on the energy of that woman. She was just a force to be reckoned with, a force of humanity to be reckoned with. But there was a vibe to all of them, and they all said the same thing, that journey, enjoy your journey. They closed what they said with enjoy your journey. And I was fully in my head like, shut the fuck up. Like I'm sitting still for the next 12 hours. What the hell kind of a journey am I really going to have? And as I said it, I was like, wait a minute. There's no way all three of these facilitators who do this shit for a living just said the same thing to me without intention behind it. I think I'm in for a fucking trip. Like I'm in for a ride. And there was a small tint of like fear that came in of, I've never done this before. I also have no idea how to come out of it. I have no, like there was all these questions that then came up that I thought I didn't need to ask myself. Remember what I said earlier? That friend of mine who asks me that one question, why? I didn't know what my why was. And my whole, like we're talking my confidence, my persona, my strength, everything that I based this decision on felt like it came crumbling down because I didn't have a why. I didn't have the conviction that I usually have for other things. The way that I speak, the way that I walk, the way that I'll pick up a girl, it doesn't matter. My conviction is what holds it all together. And here I was having none of it. So I shot a brick. I was sitting here like, my God, I'm here now. I'm not going to walk out now.
Right.
And I didn't give any stock. I didn't pay any kind of respect to the fact that I didn't know the process and that there were people around me who did, and they would help walk me through things. I wasn't prepared to give up the control. I wasn't prepared to let go of the fact that just because I didn't know didn't mean I wasn't going to be okay. Just because I was feeling that tint of fear, just because I was feeling that tint of uncertainty, it didn't mean that things were going to work out exactly the way that they needed to because I was there. That was the hardest part, was showing up. That was it. And going through that ceremony, that was one of the most transformative experiences I've ever had in my life. And it wasn't just because they said little things to help guide me. Ruben at one point said, if you get lost, if you feel like you don't know your way back, listen to the music. I didn't think anything of it when he said it because I was completely sober. But you best believe, trust and believe that when I was in the thick of it all, I remember being like, I have no fucking idea where I am, and hearing the music, and it was all in Sanskrit. So this was very, very familiar to me growing up in a Hindu home. So hearing Sanskrit was not just familiar, it was comforting. It was love. It was all these things that pulled me back. Anytime that I felt I was going in too dark of a direction, it leveled me out and it brought me back. But the space that they created was something that I didn't think for even a split second prior to that ceremony, prior to that experience. I didn't think anyone could ever create something like that for me. And it was because I had it in my head that only I could create that for myself and for other people. And here I was, letting go of it and saying the universe, God, nature, combination of all of them will give us what we need when we need it. And it'll do it in a way that will often surprise us. It's not up to us to have all the answers. It's up to us to appreciate the answers that we're given from the things that are happening around us and from the things that we're willing and able to receive as a direct result of all of those. And I was terrible at that.
I think there is also like a lesson there, which is like stop the noise in your head and allow yourself to listen. Because a lot of us, we also have like a lot of noise. We always like saying stuff, judging stuff, like asking questions yourself, like quiet the mind, just sit and allow yourself to listen. Because that's the real meditation. Meditation is not about thinking in one thing. It's about stopping the thinking. Just like focus on your breathing. Breathe in, breathe out. And stay there and allow the whole environment to start like, talking to you. Because that's how you get connected. First, with your breathing. Second, with your body. And third and lastly, with your environment, aka the universe. Because everything around us is just a reflection of us, right? Everything that happened to us is a cause and effect. And no matter where we are, it will be it will be creating this effect on you depending the response that you do. If you keep quiet, there will be a response. If you talk, there will be another response. Because each word that you said is a ripple effect in your whole environment. Each thought that you have creates a ripple effect in your body. Not only your body, but in your whole environment. Because this is something that most of people may not know, but everybody feels. When you go into certain environments and there is some type of vibration that you don't feel you like it, you will feel it. It's like, this place is weird. Same the opposite. The place you went is like, this place is beautiful. Like same with people. Like sometimes you haven't talked to that person and it's like, I like this person. Sometimes that person haven't opened his mouth and you're like, there is something about this guy I don't like.
Just hate his face.
Yeah, but the vibration, it is, because the heart creates a ripple. And that's a electromagnetic field that is around you. And this is by science proof that we have all our electromagnetic fields. So when you have that feeling, it's because your aura or that electromagnetic fields is not resonating with that one. Same with environments. But again, when you go there and you allow yourself to listen without judging and just absorb it and like being quiet, you can understand a lot more. You can understand a lot more about the environment, a lot more about the people, and a lot more about you. And a lot of people don't have the time to meditate. We always have time. We just don't want to. Because they say it's so boring to sit. Bro, for me, meditating is the most fun thing because my mind never gets quiet. It's always telling me some shit. If I sit and just like, oh, Diego, do you remember about that? I know. Shut the fuck up. Let me breathe. Do you remember about that? Yes, I know. Shut the fuck up. Let me breathe. Do you remember, like, bro, I'm trying to meditate here. And my mind is like always getting my attention. You will never going to get bored alone. It's just sitting and meditate, you will never going to get bored alone. And at some point, the mind gets so quiet, that it gets so quiet that in that moment, the environment start becoming too noisy for you. I did a meditation course. It's called Vipassana. I don't know if you have heard about it.
I have not, no.
So it's a 10 days course. You go and just do meditation from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. for 10 days. You just sit in a spot and breathe. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just wake up. Stand up for breakfast, sit again, stand up again for lunch, sit again, stand up again for dinner, and sit again. You cannot see people through their eyes directly, because every time you see somebody to their eyes, your mind starts wondering why he's looking at me like that. Of course, you cannot talk to anyone either. And after 10 days, your mind is so quiet that it started remembering stuff from the past, things that you not even remember, because you really quiet your mind like so much. Then he's like, hey, Diego, do you remember when you were 3 years old? And I'm like, I did not. Tell me more.
But you start recalling it, you're saying.
Yeah. So, it gets like more quiet, and more quiet, and more quiet, and more quiet. That at some point when you go back to the city, you have no idea how noisy it is. The city is so noisy.
Mm-hmm.
Sirens, people talking, construction, stuff, traffic. It's so noisy. And when these monks stays in the mountains forever or for months, and they don't want to come to the city, is because it's so peaceful there. It's so peaceful, it's so quiet. They're so connected to nature, and coming back to the city, it's very annoying. It's very annoying. And I never thought that actually could happen to me, but I did it 3 times, this Vipassana meditation. The third time I did it for 16 days. I was supposed to stay there for 30 days. But in day 16, my mind was like, okay, I need to get out of here. I need some fun in my life, But I was like, okay, just have to relax. So I did my 16 days, and I stand up. And then I said, I will come back later when I feel ready. Because quiet the mind is very challenging. And one of the motivation, for example, that I have to finish my first 10 days course, it was because I was sharing a room with a guy who was probably 250 pounds, maybe around 300 pounds. And he was sitting in front of me. And I saw that guy meditating and challenging his body, to actually meditate. So he going to one side, going to the other side, and he never surrendered. It was day 8 and he's still there. And I was so annoyed that I just want to leave. And then at some point I break the silence with him, because we were sharing a room. We were not supposed to talk or see each other. But I told him, bro, I'm fucking leaving. Fuck this shit. I don't know how you can do it, but I'm leaving. He's like, bro, it's only 2 days left. Stay. Today is my birthday, actually. And I'm like, why you come to your birthday to this fucking meditation course? I could do anything else but not meditating. He's like, because I want to do something different, I'm around 300 pounds. I'm suffering. You see me bouncing around. I cannot just live this. And my birthday, and I'm here. So if I can do it, you can do it. And I'm like, fuck yeah.
He challenged you.
Yeah.
In the best of ways.
Yeah, of course. So sometimes
I look at that almost as an invitation, not so much a challenge. That's
Exactly.
an invitation to just push yourself.
Yeah, you need these people around you, or these environments around you, to actually motivate you.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes when you're alone, you don't know where to go, because your mind is very noisy and it's always talking to you. It's like, you need to do something else. And I'm like, you don't. You need just to breathe and allow your environment to talk to you. And that's how my life changed. I highly recommend you, if you can have
It sounds cool.
10 days of your time at some point. Of course, it's something that you will have to set it up in a year, because 10 days.
It's a commitment.
Yeah, and also it's depending. What is your job? 10 days, you have to close phones. You got no phones, you got no nothing. In 10
You're
days,
off the grid.
it's off of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to say very important person like your mom or your girlfriend at the time, I will be here. I'm there. Don't bother me. Come and pick me up in 10 days.
And don't do anything bad while I'm gone. One of my wake up calls was I saw the quality of people that I was surrounded with in a lot of the different places that I was living, and I just didn't like the version of myself that I was when I was with them. And we're talking about reminders from the past. I ran a men's group and a women's group for the better part of 3 years. And I did this in a number of different countries. This was pre-COVID, so it was great to have the face-to-face community that I was able to build. And eventually the men's group, initially the whole purpose for that men's group was, I want to pair my professional aspirations with my personal goals, and I don't want to compromise on either of them. That was the drive. And inevitably it shifted into almost like a dating cohort, if you will, of helping. There were so many guys here who were just fucking god awful with women. They didn't know their head from their ass when it came to talking to a woman. They were amazing as people, awesome, high quality dudes, but this is where it all crumbled. And so I would challenge them. I'd say, if this part is suffering in your life, then so is everything else. In my head, both abstractly and even physically, because I have a bunch of triangles tattooed on my legs and on my arms, there's a reason for that triangle, and it's body, mind, and spirit. And if any one of those is off, the other two will suffer. And in this case, all three of them were off. So their body was suffering because they had this desire and they had this lust and all these kinds of things. Their mind was suffering because they thought they weren't good enough to get with women. And then their soul and their spirit was obviously dampened as a direct result of those two things and the suffrage that came from that.
Right.
And so going through the motions, there were always going to be the meatheads who showed up and just said, hey man, I need more pussy in my life. And I'm like, if that's how you feel and that's where you pin your value, then you're doing it wrong. And that's why you're not getting women.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, and it's not like I'm some guru. I was absolutely fucking awful with women once upon a time in my life. And I think every self-respecting man who has run a harem at one point or another was terrible at women, with women, at them. When I say at, I'm talking speaking to them, opening up a conversation, the most basic of things, teasing them playfully, bothering them, any of the, flirting, any of the most basic things that you can insert here. I think any man who is good with women now was at one point absolutely terrible.
Of course.
And so to
Practice
see them,
make the master.
Yeah, but it's not even just practice for the activity itself. I think it's more a psychological game that
you have to evolve psychologically. Like you have to stop chasing and start attracting.
Absolutely.
You become the man of value. Like you're already complete.
Mm-hmm.
You're already complete. Your value is already complete, and what you can provide as a man in your value, in terms of like, like the cats is the best example I have. If you're trying to chase the cat will fucking run away from you. But if you're just there, relax, see the cat, do the contact eye, the cat will come and start cuddling around you. Women are exactly the same way. I actually have a quote that says, safety is a pussy magnet.
Safety
is a pussy magnet. As soon as they feel safe with you,
mm-hmm.
they start coming to you. They start talking to you. They feel so safe. Like women can get naked around you and they know you won't do anything because they feel so safe.
Mm-hmm.
So safety is a pussy magnet.
These guys, you're talking about safety with women. Like these guys didn't feel any kind of safety with themselves.
Even
like
worse.
They were challenging, right? And that's where so much, and a lot of it was mirrored in the sense that I remember feeling, I could relate to it because I remember feeling parts of that. And in different ways and all these kinds of things. Part of it came from childhood trauma. Part of it came from this, from that. Whatever the underlying reason was, it didn't really matter. What did matter was that it was still affecting their life in that moment. And so that men's group was something that was arguably, very selfishly, it was for me before it was for them. And that was the intention. And I had told them right out the gate, I said, here are the things that I'm trying to accomplish. And I want to do this with people who I feel, with men who I feel have the same focused view on why they need to improve in this particular aspect of their life. Whether it's career, wealth, health, women, doesn't matter. But they have to have the drive. They just have to be able to say, enough's enough. I refuse to be a fucking peasant. I'm living my life like the fucking king that I am, and I'm pushing forward because this is what I have to do as a man. And if they can internalize that and integrate that into the rest of their life, there's no stopping them. They're going to be a force that puts a dent in the universe because they have to. And because the universe can't repel them. They're going to happen rather than other shit happening to them. And that mindset shift, watching them go through that mindset shift was insane, man. It was such a huge propellant for me to just catapult me forward in ways that I never thought I could. And one of the ways in which it catapulted me forward was I got invited by one of the guys, his wife. She reaches out to me and she says, hey, and she actually showed up at one point. And she said, hey, I don't know half of the things that you guys talk about and the things that you guys explore during these sessions, but Tyler's the guy that I fell in love with again in high school. And it was one of these things where it was incredibly fulfilling for me to hear that because I saw the ways that he was struggling in his own mind. It had far less to do with his external world. It was everything to do with what was going on internally. And mental health is a very, very important thing and all these kinds of things. Men's mental health specifically is something that oftentimes we just say, fuck it, I'm just having a bad day, and they set it aside. But when they actually prioritize being able to navigate it and find purpose in better understanding it and then getting past it, nothing's going to stop them. Like that guy's going to go on to rule the fucking world. Like he'll be an absolute G in no time. And so to have his wife, to have his woman come through and validate that he is getting back to his own drive, like he's coming back into his own, was awesome. And then she puts a cherry on top of it all and says, look, I work with a women's coach, and I think the two of you would hit it off. I think you absolutely have to talk about how you might be able to collaborate, how you might be able to co-create and do some cool stuff together. So I go and I meet with Laura, and Laura tells me, look, why don't we just skip past all of the initial like small talk? I don't want there to be a curriculum that gets introduced this late in the program that I'm running, but instead, why don't we just do an AMA, like an Ask Me Anything, with the cohort that I'm working with right now, specifically, actually not just the cohort, but rather the entirety of the group. It's just a one-time thing. You'll get a feel for it. I'll obviously give you a quick screener on the type of women that come into the program so you understand the audience, and maybe throw some questions back my way if there's anything that's a little ambiguous or in the dark, and we'll go from there. I'm thinking, so the way that I was running these groups was that there were 20 men per cohort. So there'd be 10 in one row, 10 in the next row, and I would just have them do things that would otherwise be really, really uncomfortable. So the very, very first exercise, just to give a little example, is they'd sit right in front of each other and just hold eye contact for whatever it was, 30 seconds. And you'd see them crack. They couldn't do it. They just couldn't even hold eye contact. And then the next would be move in and have your knees touch and now hold eye contact for a minute. And you'd see jacked, big ass fucking dudes just shatter under the pressure and start giggling like little girls. It was really funny to watch. But women don't have that problem at all. They're way more in touch with their emotional intelligence. They're way more in touch with even just, quite honestly, the physicality that they can experience with one another. And so going into this women's group, I was thinking it was going to be the same thing. I show up like a fucking goofball, and it's an auditorium of 200 women. Haven't prepared shit. It's an Ask Me Anything, so I wanted it to be as organic and as natural as it could possibly be. And I'll never forget the story that I was sharing with the men's group that then also ended up spawning off a women's group. Yeah. The women's group was something that was so out of my league, man. Like, I don't talk to women the way that I would be talking to the men, right? Especially in that kind of a setting, because sometimes these guys would bring shit up and I would hammer them. I'd slap them. I'd be like, dude, that's the dumbest fucking shit I've heard in a long time. Go slap yourself. Like, it was a very, very different kind of, like, it was tough love with them.
Yeah. You did that with a woman. Why are you so...
Yeah, it was you have to take a different approach.
Yeah.
But you only have to take a different approach if, everything that we've been talking about, if that's your perception. So in my mind, I'd said to myself, maybe I just hit him with brutality. Maybe I just take the same kind of approach. And obviously I dumb it down and water it down a little bit because the audience is different. But I actually think that harsh truth will land with them. And so I show up, like I said, there's 200 women in this auditorium. We're going through the Ask Me Anything. And the way that they had structured it all out is that they asked a series. When I say they, I'm talking Laura, along with Sarah and Megan, I believe, along with her facilitators. They asked a series of questions, and they had all of the women vote on those questions. And then the ones that had the highest ratings were the ones that we actually went over. And then of course there was questioning periods where a woman would stand up, she'd ask a question or she'd share something, and then we would just talk that through, and that would be the discussion. So one of them, she stands up and she starts telling me about her friend circle. And she says, I feel like for all the ways that you've just spoken about how the direct influence that we have from the people around us shapes our world, shapes our reality, shapes the way we think about things, the way we move, and the way that we interpret, perceive, and then action the things that are in front of us. I feel like I'm just with the wrong people. And so she starts talking about all that. And she says, this friend of mine, so-and-so friend of mine, she's a bitch and she fucks every single guy that she meets and blah, blah, blah. And then there's this girl who's like, she's just fucking horny 24/7, blah, blah. She just shreds, 5 of her quote unquote best friends. Mm-hmm. And she just won't stop. She's gone on now for about a minute and a half of just shredding her supposedly best friends. And so I put my hand up for a second and I was like, Kelly, if your 5 best friends are sluts, you're the 6th. And the room lost it. I immediately polarized the room. There were women that took huge offense to what I said, and there were women that celebrated the fact that I said it very honestly. I meant what I said.
Right.
I said what I meant, and I said it to her face in front of a room full of 199 other women.
Right.
There was absolutely no sugarcoating this. And I told her, I said, this is not to shred you, at least not entirely. it's not so much to shred you so much as it is to wake you up to the fact that you've heard this before, we are the composite average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. So why are you spending all of your time with 5 people that you don't want to spend any of your time with? This isn't on them. This isn't about friend 1, 2, 3, or 4 being a slut. This is about you having sovereignty of your life and being able to decide for yourself the kind of people that you want to have in it and the kind of people whose lives you want to be a part of as well. Why are you fucking this up? That was the approach. And that was what sealed the deal. That was my ticket in. Laura loved it. Sarah loved it. Megan loved it. And arguably 75% of the women who were in the audience loved it. The other 25% didn't even last the entire program anyway. They left. So who gives a shit? Send them off with love, wave them goodbye, farewell, best wishes, enjoy. But the others who were there for that very reason. They were there for the reason that I was going to absolutely shred them. I was not going to sugarcoat anything. I was going to call out their bullshit in a way that was going to force them to have to look inward instead of looking outward.
Yeah.
And so I ran those women's groups for the next, not ran them, I was a part of them and I facilitated, and then I had my own segments for the next 2.5 years. And for all the ways that I thought I had learned a lot from the men's groups, I learned just as much, if not potentially more, from the women's groups. So I'm incredibly grateful. I'm wildly and immeasurably appreciative of the fact that I had that opportunity and that I was in a capacity, or in a place rather, where I had the capacity to actually do that. It was an honor. I met a lot of really cool people. I was challenged. I got to challenge people. It was learning through and through and through in the purest way that it could have possibly been.
I think like at the end of the story, like we always are teachers and students. We always learning from people that come to learn from us. And kids actually are great examples of that. That, you know, that we try like to teach them like how to live life, and they come to us and tell us stuff that we're like, I never saw it that way, you know? So same way with women's and men's, where we have the different perceptions, since we are like more logical beings and there are like more emotional beings. So they can create more sensitivity in us in some ways, and we can be more truly honest in logical parts of like, hey, look, I know you feel this way, but this is the reality from a different perspective, at least. You know, I won't say this is the truth, but this is a reality that you also have to like accept and go through. But I don't want to take more of your time right now, because this definitely needs a second episode.
I'm in. For
sure. We're going to keep seeing each other, brother. Thank you very much for being Awaken Consciousness Podcast for the first time. No, for the last. This is one of the episodes that is going to boom, and we're going to continue in the next episode. Thank you, Kumar.
Appreciate you, brother.
Ciao for now.